That fragrance is not going to be able to put gas in your car in case you need to drive a couple hours to visit a friend who's sick. That fragrance isn't going to be able to pay your rent when your rent's due and an emergency happened and you're $100 short. Hi, my name's Derek and you're watching A Fragrant State of Mind. And today we're going to dive into the dark truth of fragrance collecting. So definitely stay tuned. Alright, so I want to start off by saying that I don't regret being a fragrance collector. I think being a fragrance collector is one of the deepest, most meaningful things in my life, besides the relationship with my wife and my family. And collecting fragrances has given me such a great opportunity to meet some amazing people, make some amazing friends, giving me the ability to dive deep into what makes my senses and my palate come alive. So I'll start off with, I was a chef for 16 years. I went to culinary school and I studied, the world of culinary arts. And I always had sort of a refined palate. I always had sort of a refined palate when it comes to food and mixing flavors and finding different ways to prepare food and give it a unique sort of flair that people would enjoy. And I really enjoyed the exciting journey that food took people on. And it wasn't until my later years, into my early 20s, that I discovered that fragrance is very similar, just uses your nose instead of your mouth. So early on I started picking up bottles, probably in my teens, mostly affordable bottles because I didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I would buy a bottle here and a bottle there of things like Acqua di Gio and Cool Water, etc., etc. And it wasn't until, I'd say right around COVID, when I discovered Jeremy Fragrance. And at the time, he was such a captivating character. And I kind of just ran across one of his videos one day, and I loved the way he was talking about fragrance. And I think the first bottle I bought off of his suggestions was Versace Dylan Blue. And I went on Amazon and I found a 200 ml bottle and I bought it. And it came in the mail and I remember opening it and smelling it and just feeling important. I felt like really special. And I was so captivated by the scent, and I thought, this is gonna do something really unique in my life. So as time went on, I started purchasing more and more bottles. And during that time, during COVID, I came into a little bit of money. Wink, wink. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so I came into a little bit of money and I started purchasing more and more bottles. And then I built my collection up to around 60 or 70 bottles. And then all of a sudden, certain things went away financially. So I ended up having to sell off my whole collection. And that was heartbreaking. The day that I sold my collection, I literally cried for like 3 days straight, because I couldn't believe that this collection that I had built up and I had hunted for and went out searching for, just one day, poof, was gone. So a couple years go past and I thought, I'm gonna start to rebuild my collection. We have a little bit of extra money and I'm gonna start picking up a bottle or two here and there. So I started doing that again. All in the meantime, still watching fragrance reviewers and really being deep in the world of fragrance. So I started picking up a bottle here, a bottle there. And then I'll tell you, the thing is that yes, you have this collection of fragrances, but when hardships happen, unfortunately, I would have to then sell off my bottles. And when you do that, you're not just losing money financially, but it really hurts deep inside, especially if these things mean a lot to you, and they really did for me. So I know that fragrance can be an addiction. It can be something that really takes hold, similar to a drug addiction or an addiction to cigarettes or alcohol or gambling. It can be something that consumes you, and every extra dollar that you have, you end up spending on fragrances. And I know that happened to me, and I know through time I didn't have disposable income anymore, and now the money I was spending was money for bills, money for emergency funds, And then all of a sudden those emergencies started happening and I had no money because I had just bought 3 or 4 bottles of this or that. And it really started to affect not only my life and my stability, but also my relationship in my family as well. So I'll say this to everybody out there that thinks that buying fragrances is something that is just a hobby or whatever. Really consider this. If you can afford to buy 3 bottles of a particular fragrance and it doesn't affect you, you're doing good. But if you can only afford 1 bottle and it puts you at a point where, you know, you're riding until your next paycheck, or you're sacrificing certain things, or you're not able to create a savings with the money that you're spending on fragrances, really reconsider these things. Because at the end of the day, that fragrance bottle is not going to get you, it's not going to be able to pay for a vet bill if your animal gets sick. You know, it's really not something that's going to give you stability. It's not going to make you feel better when you're feeling depressed because, you know, you're unable to do certain things, or your wife needs a haircut and she can't get a haircut because you're $50 short on a bill this month and you were still able to buy those 2 bottles of fragrance. I don't regret it. I don't regret being a fragrance collector. But there is a dark reality to it. And I just want you all to recognize that as much as I love this hobby, it could be a really dangerous thing if you let it get the best of you. And I think moving forward, if I'm gonna be suggesting a fragrance, I want you to take into mind and consideration, is this something I can really afford? Is this something that makes sense in my life right now? And do I need 100 bottles? Or would I be good with just 2 or 3? I don't want any of you, because I love you all, to ever get into a situation where you can't afford a bill because you bought fragrance. It's not worth it. It's not worth sacrificing your needs over. And at the end of the day, when we all are dead and gone, I'm not going to be able to take any of these bottles with me. But what I can take is that I took care of my home, I took care of my family, and I took care of the people that need it the most. I'm not here to push any idea all on you or anything like that, but I do want you to know that I know for myself, I'm going to try to do better, and I hope you all do as well. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. I love you all. Stay safe out there, and as always, have a fragrant state of mind.